Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Host Eddie Frederick.
Welcome to Caribbean Perspective. So glad you can join us. The story that takes the lead in today's edition for Thursday, 1st February 2024, brought to you in association with our friends at Antillian Group. UWI pressed to play key role in resolving Jamaica's social challenges. Details after this important message.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all, perils big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillian Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
Welcome back. One of Jamaica's leading scholars, Professor Trevor Monroe, is urging the University of the West Indies to take a more deliberate role in addressing the country's social ills. The founding director of the National Integrity Action, NIA, suggested several ways this could be achieved during a meeting earlier on Monday. CVM's Natalia Clark reports.
Only 6 years left to achieve the country's long-term development plan, Vision 2030. The verdict is still out on whether there is enough time to get it done. That's the stance of one of the Caribbean's leading public scholars, Professor Trevor Monroe. He posits only a third of the target indicators has so far been met, and the consequences are impacting citizen security, educational underperformance, and inadequate health and wellness provisions.
And that is after 2/3 of the period has passed in which this plan is to be implemented. At the same time, regrettably, 33% have shown no improvement or worsened over the 2007 baseline year, including failures on important indicators. I mentioned two: the rule of law and the control of corruption.
He suggests, however, that by assessing several offices in Jamaica, there appears to be a positive linkage between the University of West Indies and policy and societal changes. One he believes, if further nurtured, may benefit Jamaica's quest to becoming the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. He argues this could be achieved by adding specific criteria for assessment and promotion of staff.
Could not the UWI marketing and communication infrastructure, for example, UWI television, News Talk 93, could they not play a more deliberate and purposive role in disseminating to the man in the street, ignore him at your peril, the significant ongoing work in dealing with his everyday issues?
Professor Monroe notes the services are not to be seen as insignificant, but rather necessary, as the government awarded about $37 billion in the 2022-2023 fiscal year to the provision of services to include consultancy. He calls also for increased partnership between the university and the private sector.
Combat it. May I suggest that UWI needs to work much more closely with the private sector to identify the challenges which they have to contend with, and the areas in which research and development capability can be more effectively utilized.
He was speaking on Monday at a UE-MONA roundtable discussion aiming to critically assess the university's role in society and explore whether the UE has fulfilled its societal obligations. Natalia Clark, CVM News.
Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley met with United States Deputy Under Secretary of Defense Melissa Dalton at the Pentagon on Monday. More in this TTT News item.
A release from the Office of the Prime Minister explained that discussions focused on a number of areas, including defense cooperation, border security, partnership with the Delaware National Guard, cyber defense and cyber security, as well as regional maritime interdiction. Also present for the meeting were Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for the Western Hemisphere, Daniel Erickson, Minister of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, Dr. Amy Brown, Minister of Energy and Energy Industries, and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Stuart Young, and Chief of Defense Staff of the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, Air Vice Marshal Darrell Daniel. Following this, Prime Minister Rowley also met with the Director of the Central Intelligence Agency, William Burns.
Founder of DGSL, Dennis O'Brien, says the future of the company remains very bright as it has restructured, and Canto continues to push for fair share payments from large operators. Gisha Kaulazar Olanzo tells us more in this edition of CNC3 Business Watch.
It's business as usual for Digicel as the company is continuing to invest in the local market, says its founder Dennis O'Brien, who assures that Digicel continues to be very strong as it has restructured its balance sheet.
The business now is in a very, very strong position. We're adding a lot more customers. We're building out more fiber networks. We're expanding our existing LTE network. And, the future is very, very bright. We've equitized about $1.7 billion.
Regarding upcoming changes for the company, O'Brien says none are expected thus far.
No changes in with leadership here in Trinidad or any of our markets. It's business as usual, and that's the way it's been now for a very, very long time. And we will continue to invest here in Trinidad.
However, he's calling for greater regulation for the sector to ensure that everyone pays their share of taxes. O'Brien officially stepped down today as Digicel's chairman. Rajiv Suri will officially take his place. O'Brien was speaking to Business Watch on Monday at a conference hosted by Canto, which comprises players in the telecommunications sector. Meanwhile, Lisa Agard, chairman of C9, a Canto working group of Caribbean telecommunications operators, is advocating for big tech companies to contribute financially to the regional telecommunications network. She says large companies like Meta, Google, and Netflix continue to impact the operations of regional players.
They're using 67% of your network assets and not making a contribution to that. Yet at the same time, network operators have to spend in excess of $500 million per annum, or 0.5% of the GDP of the Caribbean, in order to sustain investments in those networks. Agard, who was also speaking with the Business Watch on Monday, is calling for more discussions, which she also wants at the highest level going forward.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick,
in association with our friends at
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.
SKN Newsline confirmed that senior officials of the government of St. Kitts and Nevis attended a meeting in Dominica between European Union representatives and countries of the Eastern Caribbean that have citizenship by investment programs. Glenn Bart of SKN Newsline has more.
According to a reliable source, the week-long meeting included meetings with each CBI country in which specific concerns were raised. For some time, the European Union has expressed concern over what they believe are significant security risks posed by these programs. SKN Newsline learned that the withdrawal of visa-free access to so-called Schengen countries of Europe is not imminent, but it depends on whether Eastern Caribbean CBI countries address the EU concerns. Meanwhile, the source indicated that the European Union seems adamant about what they want, demanding the following. 1. That Caribbean CBI countries price their citizenship in the millions of dollars to reduce the high number of applicants and approvals. And 2. That the practice of having unofficial discounting schemes by service providers be stamped out, again to reduce high numbers of applicants. According to the source, the European Union representatives acknowledged that the CBI programs were essential to the well-being of Caribbean economies. Nevertheless, the EU expressed concern over the illegal processing and approval of Russian applicants by some Caribbean CBI countries. Special concern also was expressed, according to the source, over a specific service provider developer based on St. Kitts, which is conducting a major CBI project on the island. It is said that the developer service provider has been engaged in an unofficial discounting scheme for the project. The message from the European Union seems to be clear, and that is, Eastern Caribbean CBI countries must implement changes according to the requirements of the European Union, or else lose visa-free access to Schengen countries. Meanwhile, Philippe Martinez of MSR Media, who instituted CBI-related legal action against certain parties on St. Kitts during an MSR digital conference held 23 January 2024, expressed his views on the matter as a service provider in the SKN CBI program. In a written statement, Martinez wrote, quote, "The news that came out of the European Union's meeting yesterday is tremendous. I have warned everyone that these CBI financing and discounting were nothing but a scam in order to sell citizenship in extraordinary high volume at a fraction of the legal price. The European Union has now clearly pointed its finger at these schemes. This is only the beginning to bring law and order into the CBI programs, so the people of these countries can actually benefit from the financial returns of such programs. I am confident that the actions MSR Media has taken in the US and elsewhere will bring more interesting news within the next few months to come. Those who have broken the CBI laws and international laws have made millions. Clearly now they will have to face the consequences of their actions and wrongdoing. Those who have allowed these illegal schemes to happen, and those who still do, have created a massive risk to their countries. A new era is now starting, and I'm optimistic because the officials in these countries will not jeopardize their CBI programs and take the risk to lose the privilege of visa-free access into Schengen areas." End quote. The CBI financial inflows have been an economic boon for St. Kitts and Nevis. However, some officials and influencers believe the income will substantially decline, and it is critically important that the country diversifies its economy sooner rather than later. Glenn Bart reporting for SK Newsline.
The British High Commissioner to the Bahamas is assuring that the Bahamas is safe and that London will not be taking any similar position to the United States of advising British citizens on safety regarding travel to the Caribbean destination. More in this ZNS News item.
U.S. Embassy officials in Nassau emphasized in a release Friday that a routine update to the travel advisory for the Bahamas was issued. And as part of its ongoing commitment to citizen safety, these updates serve as a guide for travelers to the destination. The Americans contend their mandate is to keep U.S. citizens informed and prepared. Advisories they maintain are not a critique of law enforcement or the government, but a proactive measure to ensure the well-being of U.S. citizens abroad. Well, as mentioned, the U.S. crime alert on the Bahamas making the rounds all the way to the United Kingdom. The good news is it really didn't change a British High Commissioner, His Excellency Tom Hartley's view about visitors from his country coming here. He assured reporters today that the Bahamas is safe.
We think if tourists can make the sensible precautions they do in any major city, that they will mostly have a safe trip to the Bahamas like they would do in any country. We're not taking any additional precautions at this time. We're working very closely with the police and with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I saw the Foreign Minister's message out this weekend. Our UK advice aligns with that message. We continue to watch it closely. If something changes, of course, we'll update our advice. But for right now, our advice is unchanged.
And some U.S. cruise visitors we spoke with downtown today say they aren't too worried about the U.S. State Department's recent crime alert. In fact, they're just too happy to visit the sunny shores of the Bahamas.
We've been here all day and we haven't had any issues.
No, I'm not, because that's gang stuff that has nothing to do with Americans here having a good time.
I think when they issue some news like that, I think they should really get in detail, because Nassau has a beautiful town here and everybody's wonderful.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please follow us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel for daily regional news and more, in association with our friends at Antillian Group.
Believe in our strength, we'll stand by you. Protection from all perils, big and small. Reassurance we give, it's so clear to see. Peace of mind, that's our service risk guarantee. We look after all our family. Yes, we do at every opportunity.
Antillean Group, underwriters of all classes of insurance solutions for your protection and investment. Live well financially.